Dual sports, enduros, race bikes, ADVs, and whatever you might think of should be similar since all of them are off-road bikes, right? Unfortunately, that's not the case, and it's often more confusing than you might imagine. And that's why in this video I will break down the differences as well as give you some tips on how to switch from a dual sport to a race bike. Also, for clarification, by race bike I mean non-homologated dirt bikes in either motocross or cross-country trim. While race bikes, especially 250s and 125s, make similar power to bigger dual sports, the key difference is the delivery. While dual sports are mapped for a smooth delivery and to be very forgiving, because most of the time they are learner bikes, race bikes are the complete opposites. You are either in the rev range or the engine won't make any power. This separates 2 strokes and 4 strokes. On a 2-stroke, the power band hits way harder than on a 4-stroke, but you have more breathing room at lower revs. While on a 4-stroke you have more or less instant power just as you twist the throttle, but the hit might be softer than on a 2-stroke. But if you are not used to this type of power delivery, it will result in a natural tendency for choppy throttle, which can be backed from my own experience, since I struggled with it for many weeks. While it is not entirely power related, I will also mention the difference between motocross bikes and dual sports in terms of engine braking, where on motocross bikes it is way harder due to higher compression. Here's the main difference which separates dual sports into 2 types. A road bike with the ability to go off-road and a dirt bike with ability to ride on roads. To give you one example of each, bikes like Yamaha DT125 are more similar to dirt bikes rather than road bikes, whereas something similar to Suzuki DR125 is just a naked tune for an ability to go off-road. Switching from a plated off-road bike like Yamaha DT125, which I mentioned before, to a race bike won't be too difficult in terms of chassis size, since just the seat will be a bit higher and more encouraging to move around on it. However, on an off-road tuned road bike, like I mentioned Suzuki DR125 as an example, it will be completely different due to increased ground clearance, which also leads to the higher center of gravity. On road-oriented dual sports, the seat and riding position is designed so that you won't need to move around on it and to be able to ride comfortably on long trips. Whereas on motocross bikes you need to be moving around on the seat in order to corner properly, which will be different compared to riding dual sports. Despite having a similar or sometimes longer wheelbase compared to most dual sports and higher center of gravity, full-size dirt bikes give a feeling of a way sharper handling in corners, even if they won't be able to turn as tightly as some dual sports. Lean angle plays a big role in that, because dual sports often rely a lot more on lean angle, whereas on a motocross bike you don't need to lean nearly as far in order to turn. Which is why weight transfers also play a big role in cornering, which require weighing the front end, both by using your own weight, as well as by dragging brakes further into corners. And while techniques may vary, dragging brakes is the most popular option. Now, there is no way to name a perfect bike for everyone, so I will give you a few options of what might be the right tool for the job for you. The safest option for a race bike is to get a 85 2-stroke or 150 4-stroke. However, if you are the average height or taller, it might feel kinda too small, since these bikes are meant for 10 to 15-year-old kids, but there are plenty of adults who ride them. Next step in a regular motocross ladder is a 125 2-stroke, and here's where you might experiment a bit, since 125s are very close to full-size dirt bikes, aka big bikes, which means the size might play a big role in increasing the difficulty to learn how to ride them, which means you can get an enduro enduro trim 125, which tend to be a bit more expensive, but they have softer suspension and more linear power, which makes them easier to ride, so that you can focus more on handling rather than power. Lastly, you might consider a 250 4-stroke, but I would only recommend it if you have a lot of experience in riding off-road, pretty good clutch and brake control, as well as being somewhat used to more powerful and taller bikes. As always, you can get an enduro model, but like in 125s they are more expensive, but can make things way easier. I wouldn't recommend anything bigger, since 250 2-strokes, 350s and bigger bikes are just too much. And stories where someone bought a 450 as an introduction to dirt bikes, but regretted it shortly after are very common. Also, access to private land or forests, living somewhere with next to no police, or just getting a plated bike will also let you learn way easier, rather than being forced to ride on tracks. To wrap this video up, I will tell you a story about how I switched from a 125 Dual Sport to a 250F race bike, and do I regret it? So that you can learn from someone else's mistakes rather than yours. So, long story short, I've been riding a Honda XR125 for 3 years, purely off-road since I don't have a license, but quickly I realized that it wasn't cut out for the job. So I got a KTM 250 SXF, which on the test ride felt fine, but when I got it home I felt as if I completely forgot how to ride, which was a hard reality check to say the least. But after 2 months I finally started to get somewhat comfortable on it, but it wasn't too fun of a experience. Another thing that was a big difference, and which I forgot to take into the account, was the maintenance. Maint maintenance main maintenance
Maintenance.
Anyway, which is bigger by a mile compared to dual sports. But now, after half a year on it, I finally kinda know how to ride it properly, but there is still a long way to go. Lastly, do I regret buying this KTM? Well, no. Would the things turn out better if I got a different bike? Yes, things would have turned out way better if I got a Enduro Spec 125 2-stroke, but I overestimated my abilities, which resulted in a hard time learning. And if I would like you to learn something from this video, it would be to avoid overestimating yourself and to learn that sometimes a smaller, less powerful bike can turn out to be way more fun than getting a faster and bigger bike. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, and I will hopefully see you again someday.